Ethan heard a soft sound near his son's grave. He turned and saw a boy sitting in the shadows, crying quietly. The boy looked up, startled, as Ethan stepped closer. "Who are you?" Ethan asked sharply. "I'm sorry," the boy stammered. "I didn't mean to bother you." "You're not bothering me," Ethan said, softer now. "But why are you here?" The boy wiped his tears. "This is Noah's grave," he whispered. "He was my best friend." Ethan's heart sank. This boy knew Noah? "What's your name?" Ethan asked. "Liam," the boy replied, clutching a crumpled paper in his hands. "Why are you here so late, Liam?" Liam hesitated. "I miss him," he said. "And I think about what happened that day." Ethan froze. What did Liam know? Why did he sound so scared? "Tell me," Ethan pressed. "What do you remember about that day?" Liam shook his head. "I can't. I shouldn't have come." Before Liam could run, Ethan stopped him. "Wait," Ethan said firmly. "You came here for a reason. Tell me what you know." Liam looked down, trembling. "Noah saved me," he whispered. "But it wasn't an accident. Someone hurt him." Ethan's blood ran cold. What was Liam hiding? And who had hurt his son? Ethan stared at Liam, his mind racing. "What do you mean it wasn't an accident?" he asked, his voice tight with urgency. Liam hesitated, tears welling up again. "I don't know if I should say anything," he whispered. "It's dangerous. Dangerous." Ethan frowned. "Liam, my son is gone. If there's something you know, anything, you have to tell me." The boy looked around nervously, as if afraid someone might be watching. Finally, he spoke in a shaky voice. "Noah and we found out something we weren't supposed to. About a man in town. He does bad things, really bad things. We didn't mean to find out, but once we did, he started following us." Ethan's stomach churned. "Who is this man?" "I can't say his name," Liam said quickly. "But after that, Noah told me we had to be careful. He made me promise to keep quiet no matter what." "And then what happened?" Ethan urged gently. Liam swallowed hard. "One night, we were walking home from the park. That man came out of nowhere. He was angry, so angry. Noah pushed me away and Liam couldn't finish. His small body shook as sobs overtook him. Ethan knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "It's okay," Ethan said softly. "Take your time." After a moment, Liam wiped his eyes and continued. "Noah fell. I tried to help him, but it was too late. The man ran off, and when people found us, they said it was an accident. But it wasn't. It wasn't." Ethan felt like the ground had been ripped out from under him. His son hadn't died in some random mishap. He'd been murdered. And Liam had been there, helpless and carrying this secret alone for 2 years. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" Ethan asked, his voice trembling. "Because the man warned me," Liam replied. "He said if I talked, he'd come after me and you. I didn't want anyone else to get hurt." Ethan clenched his fists, anger boiling inside him. But he forced himself to stay calm for Liam's sake. "You're safe now," Ethan promised. "I won't let him hurt you or anyone else ever again." Liam looked at him, uncertainty in his eyes. "You believe me?" "Yes," Ethan said firmly. "And together, we'll figure out how to stop him." For the first time since meeting Liam, Ethan felt a spark of purpose. Helping this boy wasn't just about uncovering the truth. It was about honoring Noah's memory by protecting the friend he'd died for. The next morning, Ethan brought Liam to his home, a sprawling estate with high walls and security cameras. He wanted the boy to feel safe, but Liam seemed uneasy, fidgeting with the hem of his oversized jacket as he looked around the luxurious house. "You can stay here for now," Ethan said gently. "No one will find you here." Liam nodded, though doubt lingered in his eyes. "Thank you," he murmured. "But what are we going to do?" "We're going to find proof," Ethan replied firmly. "Proof that man hurt Noah. And once we have it, we'll make sure he pays." Liam hesitated before pulling out a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket, the same one Ethan had noticed at the cemetery. "Noah gave me this before it happened," he explained. He said if anything ever happened to him, I should show it to someone I trust. Ethan took the paper carefully. It was a drawing, something only a child could create, yet filled with strange symbols and patterns. At first glance, it looked like random scribbles, but closer inspection revealed tiny details. Numbers hidden among the shapes, arrows pointing in specific directions, and faint outlines of buildings. What is this? Ethan asked, turning to Liam. I don't know, Liam admitted. Noah loved drawing, but these weren't normal pictures. He called them clues. He said they'd help us if we were ever in trouble. Ethan studied the drawing intently. These aren't just doodles, they're part of a code. Noah must have been trying to document what he saw. Over the next few days, Ethan and Liam pored over the drawing together. They found more sketches tucked away in Liam's belongings, each one filled with similar symbols and patterns. Slowly, they began piecing things together. The numbers corresponded to addresses in their town, while the building outlines matched warehouses and abandoned structures. One evening, as they worked at Ethan's dining table, Liam pointed to a symbol that appeared repeatedly across the drawings. This looks like a bird, he said thoughtfully. Ethan squinted at it. A phoenix, he corrected. It's a phoenix rising from ashes. Why would Noah draw that so much? Liam wondered aloud. It might mean something important, Ethan replied. Maybe it's tied to whoever Noah was investigating. Determined to uncover more, Ethan decided to visit one of the locations marked on the drawings, an old warehouse near the edge of town. He didn't want to bring Liam along, fearing it might be dangerous, but the boy insisted. I need to come, Liam said firmly. Noah trusted me with these clues. I have to see this through. Reluctantly, Ethan agreed. Together, they drove to the warehouse under the cover of darkness. As they approached, Ethan noticed how rundown it looked. Broken windows, rusted doors, and graffiti covering the walls. But something about it felt ominous, like it was hiding secrets too dark to imagine. Inside, they found remnants of activity. Discarded crates, tools scattered on the floor, and faded documents left behind. One wall caught their attention. It was covered in newspaper clippings and photographs, all connected by red string. This is it, Ethan whispered, his heart pounding. This is where Noah got his information. Among the clippings, they discovered a name written in bold letters. Victor Kane. Beneath it were photos of Victor shaking hands with powerful politicians, businessmen, and even law enforcement officials. He's involved in everything? Liam breathed, horrified. Drugs, money laundering, threats. Noah must have figured it out. Ethan clenched his fists. Now they knew who was responsible, but exposing Victor wouldn't be easy. He was untouchable, protected by wealth and influence. As they left the warehouse, Ethan turned to Liam. We're getting close, he said, but we need to be careful. If Victor finds out we're onto him, he won't hesitate to silence us. Liam nodded, fear and determination mingling in his expression. We owe it to Noah, he said quietly. We can't stop now. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. The image of Victor Kane's name scrawled across the warehouse wall haunted him. It wasn't just the man's crimes that weighed on his mind. It was the realization of how deeply Noah had been involved. His son hadn't just stumbled upon dangerous secrets. He'd actively tried to expose them, risking his life to do what was right. Ethan felt a surge of pride and guilt. Pride for the courage Noah had shown, and guilt for not seeing it sooner. He had always thought of Noah as a dreamer, lost in his drawings and imagination. But now, those same drawings were unraveling a web of corruption that reached far beyond their small town. The next day, Ethan and Liam dug deeper into Victor Kane's history. Using his resources, Ethan hired a private investigator to gather information discreetly. Meanwhile, Liam spent hours studying Noah's sketches, searching for anything they might have missed. One clue stood out, a series of numbers written faintly on the back of one drawing. At first glance, they seemed random, but Liam recognized them immediately. These are dates, he said, his voice trembling with excitement. Noah used to write down important days, like when we saw Victor meeting someone shady or when something big happened. Ethan cross-referenced the dates with local news archives and discovered a pattern. Each date coincided with an event tied to Victor Kane. A sudden rise in drug activity, a rival businessman's mysterious disappearance, or a police raid that mysteriously went nowhere. But one date stood apart. It was the day Noah died. On that day, according to records, Victor Kane had attended a charity gala in the city, miles away from where the accident occurred. On the surface, it looked like an alibi. But Ethan knew better. Powerful men like Victor didn't get their hands dirty. They hired others to do it for them. As they pieced together more of the puzzle, Liam began opening up about the last moments he shared with Noah. "We were scared," Liam admitted one evening as they sat in Ethan's study, surrounded by papers and photos. "Noah kept saying we needed to tell someone, but I was too afraid. Then, that night, we thought we'd lost him. He told me to run if anything happened. And when it did," Liam's voice broke, tears streaming down his face. "I should have stayed. I should have helped him." "You were a child," Ethan said firmly, placing a hand on Liam's shoulder. "Noah made a choice to protect you. That's what heroes do." Liam sniffed, wiping his eyes. "Do you think he knew about all this?" "I think he suspected enough to know it was dangerous," Ethan replied. "And I think he wanted us to finish what he started." With each passing day, their bond grew stronger. Liam began seeing Ethan not just as Noah's father, but as a protector and guide. For Ethan, having Liam around filled the void left by Noah's death. Together, they became a team, united by grief and purpose. But the closer they got to the truth, the more danger loomed. One afternoon, as Ethan returned home from a meeting, he noticed something unusual. A black car parked near his gate. Its windows were tinted, and the driver seemed to be watching the house. When Ethan confronted the driver later that evening, the man smirked. "Victor sends his regards," he said before speeding off. Ethan's blood ran cold. They were being watched. "Pack your things," Ethan told Liam urgently. "We're leaving tonight." "Where will we go?" Liam asked, panic in his voice. "Somewhere safe," Ethan replied, "until we figure out our next move." As they fled under the cover of darkness, Ethan realized the stakes had never been higher. Victor Kane wouldn't stop until they were silenced or dead. But giving up wasn't an option. Not when Noah's memory depended on it. Ethan and Liam drove through the night, putting as much distance as possible between themselves and Victor Kane's reach. They ended up at a secluded cabin Ethan owned in the mountains. A place he rarely visited but kept for moments when he needed solitude. The air was crisp, and the silence was deafening compared to the chaos of the city. For a few days they stayed hidden, planning their next move. Ethan knew running wasn't a solution. They needed concrete evidence to take Victor down. But every lead they followed seemed to circle back to dead ends. It was as if Victor had eyes everywhere, anticipating their every step. One morning, while Ethan was outside checking the perimeter, Liam called him inside urgently. "Look at this," he said, holding up one of Noah's drawings. Ethan frowned. He'd seen it before. It was a sketch of a phoenix rising from ashes, surrounded by swirling flames. But something about it caught his attention now. "The flames," Liam pointed out. "They're not random. They form letters." Ethan leaned closer, squinting at the intricate lines. Sure enough, within the flames were faint shapes that spelled out a single word, "Harbor." "That's it," Ethan exclaimed. "Noah must have been pointing us toward the harbor. That's where Victor operates most of his shipments." Excited but cautious, they decided to investigate. Disguising themselves and taking extra precautions, they traveled to the harbor under the cover of darkness. What they found there chilled them to the bone. The area was bustling with activity despite the late hour. Men loaded crates onto ships while armed guards patrolled the docks. Hidden among the shadows, Ethan and Liam watched as Victor Kane himself emerged from a sleek black car, barking orders into a phone. "He's here," Liam whispered, gripping Ethan's arm tightly. Ethan nodded, his jaw clenched. This was their chance to gather undeniable proof. Using a small camera Ethan had brought along, they snapped photos of the operation. Crates marked with suspicious labels, bribed officials turning a blind eye, and Victor overseeing everything with cold precision. But just as they were about to leave, disaster struck. A guard spotted movement near their hiding spot and raised an alarm. "There!" someone shouted, pointing directly at them. "Run!" Ethan yelled, grabbing Liam's hand. They sprinted through the maze of shipping containers, dodging guards and narrowly avoiding capture. Bullets whizzed past them as they made their way toward the edge of the harbor. Just when it seemed like they wouldn't escape, Ethan spotted an old fishing boat tied to a dock. "Get on!" he ordered, helping Liam climb aboard before jumping in himself. With adrenaline-fueled strength, Ethan untied the ropes and started the engine just as the guards reached the shore. "They're getting away!" one of them shouted, firing shots that splintered the wood behind them. Ethan pushed the throttle forward, speeding away from the harbor as fast as the small boat would allow. Once they were safely out of range, he let out a shaky breath. "We did it," he said, looking at Liam. "We got the proof we need." Liam clutched the camera tightly, his face pale but resolute. "Now what?" "Now," Ethan replied, determination hardening his voice. "We bring Victor Kane to justice." Back at the cabin, Ethan and Liam pored over the evidence they had gathered from the harbor. The photos were damning. Clear shots of Victor Kane overseeing illegal shipments, bribing officials, and coordinating with known criminals. Combined with the clues Noah had left behind, they finally had enough to expose him. But going public wasn't as simple as handing the evidence to the police. Victor's influence ran deep. Many officers and politicians were on his payroll. If they weren't careful, the truth would be buried again, or worse, they'd both end up dead. Ethan decided to take the story straight to the media. He reached out to a trusted journalist named Claire Harper, an old acquaintance known for her fearless reporting on corruption. Though hesitant at first, Claire agreed to meet them in secret after hearing about Noah's bravery and seeing the evidence firsthand. "This is huge," Claire said, scrolling through the photos and documents. "If we release this, it'll blow everything wide open." "But can you protect us?" Ethan asked, glancing at Liam. "Victor won't stop until he silences us." Claire nodded grimly. "I'll make sure you're safe. But once this goes live, there's no turning back." The next morning, the story broke. Headlines screamed across every major news outlet. "Billionaire crime lord exposed. Inside Victor Kane's illegal empire." The article included detailed accounts of Victor's operations, backed by Ethan and Liam's evidence. Within hours, the public outcry was deafening. Under immense pressure, law enforcement had no choice but to act. A warrant was issued for Victor's arrest, and raids were conducted on his properties. One by one, his network crumbled as accomplices turned against him to save themselves. For Ethan and Liam, watching the fallout was bittersweet. Justice for Noah had been served, but the cost of uncovering the truth weighed heavily on them. "You did it?" Ethan told Liam one evening as they sat by the fire. "Noah would be proud of you." Liam smiled faintly, clutching one of Noah's drawings. "We did it together." With Victor Kane behind bars, life began to change for both Ethan and Liam. The weight of fear that had hung over them for so long finally lifted, replaced by a sense of peace and purpose. Ethan officially adopted Liam, giving him the stable home he'd lacked since Noah's death. For Liam, it felt like finding a family again. He started attending school regularly, where his teachers marveled at his artistic talent. Inspired by Noah's memory, Liam began creating art that told stories of courage and justice, pieces that touched everyone who saw them. For Ethan, adopting Liam filled a void he hadn't realized existed. His once empty mansion now buzzed with laughter and warmth. Watching Liam grow into a confident young artist reminded Ethan of the son he'd lost, but also of the legacy Noah had left behind. One afternoon, as they stood together in front of Noah's grave, Liam placed a new drawing at the base of the headstone. It was a phoenix rising from ashes, surrounded by swirling flames. Beneath it, Liam had written, "For Noah, your bravery will never be forgotten." Ethan placed a hand on Liam's shoulder, smiling softly. "He'd love this," he said. Liam nodded, tears glistening in his eyes, but a smile breaking through. "I think about him every day," he admitted. "But I know he's proud of us for finishing what he started." As they walked away from the grave, Ethan felt a deep sense of closure. Losing Noah had shattered him, but helping Liam had given him a second chance at fatherhood and at life itself. Together, they had honored Noah's memory by exposing the truth and standing up to evil. And though the scars of their journey would always remain, they had found redemption in each other and hope for the future.